Hey everybody, I know it's been a while, but those of you that have subscribed or those of you that are actually just actually looking at this particular video, I appreciate it, and thanks for hanging out with me. So welcome to another episode of Wrenching with Rob here. Today we're doing things a little bit different. We're going to talk about the differences between electronic ignition and points ignition. There's a lot of videos out there on how to set this all up, and I'm going to just talk about real quick the differences here if the battery lasts. So what we have here is the distributor out of the Model A, the 1930 Model A, and a distributor out of the 87 YJ with the 4.2. So as you can see, they're a little bit different. One is electronic and one is points. So this one is the points type, a couple little bit, different looking, and this one is the electronic one. So getting into it, the reason why we are actually where we're at is because the original Model A, well, we'll just call this the contactor here, and where all this stuff is supposedly supposed to make, the lightning and sparks and all that good stuff, ended up getting angry and this little thing here shorting out. And if anybody knows anything about points type distributors, if the coil is grounded out, which this does, eventually it will not fire. So we'll put that away. He's angry right there. We've replaced this whole entire thing here with a new setup to and I'll get into that in a minute. So anyway, we've got everything laid out here. We have the distributor cap for the Model A. It's a little bit different looking. Here's the rotor. And if we lay that down, here is the distributor cap and the rotor for the Jeep. So the differences. Okay. In a points type distributor, in order to make the coil fire, you need to collapse the field, or basically open up the signal that runs between the coils. So this whole thing right here is basically the ground. And if you really want to blow your mind, Model A's are positive ground, so we won't even get into that. But anyway, this is like the circuit or the switch that is firing the coil. So, and we'll get right up in there, and hopefully you guys can see this. So what happens when the engine is turning, you see that little opening right there that just opened up, and now it'll go closed. That's your breaker points, they call them. So they are opening and closing, and it's that moment when they open is when hopefully your rotor button right here, whoops, good thing I don't work on a bridge, is lined up with one of these little points right here. So each one of these points corresponds with one of these little, let's put this guy down for a minute. Each one of these points on here lines up with one of these things inside here. So if I were to take a meter and probe each one of these, this one probably goes here, this one probably goes here. You'd actually have to look at it, and mark them down. So the same thing applies when you look on the bottom of this modern style one. So each one of these is directly corresponding with one of these. And this is where your spark plug wires go, obviously. And on the Model A, this is where your spark plug leads go. On the Model A, it's just brass little strips. God forbid you put your hand in there and touch one of them while it's running. You will know, or that's one of those things you only do once. I'm not sure how I would know that. Anyway, so pull the rotor button back off. Like I said, when you have this on there, let's see if we can just place it down. And there's the mark. So when you have it all happy lined up, which at the moment it's not going to line up because I have it all angry. It's supposed to go on there. Oh, am I a dummy? There, see that pin? That's where it's supposed to go. And then of course the cap would be on there, and the coil wire, just like on the modern one, would go right into the center. So hopefully right about the time, if you have everything timed up right, it's right about there, and that little spark will jump across into one of these or one of these, depending on which one corresponds with where it's at. So I think that one is actually here. And then if you go all the way across, the points should be opening, bam, ignition, and it fires off to here. And then bang, fires off to here. So all you're doing is basically turning a switch on and off, on and off. And we'll take it back apart. And that's what's happening right here. So if you look again, it's going off, on. It's a little odd because you would think that when it closes, it would initiate it. But no, when it's open, that's when it goes boom, hopefully, if everything is happy within your timing and everything else. So what happens, and the reason why they went away from this whole setup, is every time those things touch or open, they have a little spark that goes on there, and those little contacts in there, they tend to get a little fussy and stop making contact. If anybody's ever had any experience with electronics knows that if you keep sparking or arcing across two little points in there, they ended up burning or coking or whatever you want to call that, they get carboned up. Pretty soon they don't make the best contact anymore, and you have ignition problems. So what I didn't tell you about is here is this little thing right here where my thumb is, has lobes on it, and as it comes or as it turns, it pushes. I don't know if hopefully you guys can see that. See that? It's going open, close. So there's 4 little spots because it's 4-cylinder. And it keeps opening them things and closing. So they got away from that because, like I said, those things tend to burn, and they went with this electronic type ignition that uses what we call the Hall effect. So this is a piece of metal, and there's a little magnet, well, we can call it a little force field, whatever, there. So every time this thing passes by, and you can feel it as you turn it, it's like, oh, yep, there it went. It's all no moving parts. Obviously, the distributor moves, you know, the center of it, but we don't have those points that are arcing and making contact and eventually having to be replaced. And typically you'd have to replace those every year. So they got away from that with this electronic ignition here. And what it does is, like I said, every time one of them comes across, it fires, and it just simulates what happens down here on these points. So if we put the rotor back on here, same type of a thing as the Model A rotor. Coil wire comes in right here. Here is the point to where it is hopefully lined up with one of those little points there. So as it turns, depending on clockwise or counterclockwise, doesn't really matter. You know, the same effect happens. It goes bang, 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 and this happens very rapidly. So these electronic ignitions are much more efficient and really don't have any parts to wear out like the old point style do here. So that's pretty much how all that works. You know, naturally this uses some type of a brain box that you know, takes signals. Yeah, I guess those things go bad after a while, but hopefully nowhere near as quickly as what this thing does. So there's where your cam gear would engage the distributor, and this is the part that engages your oil pump. So real short one today. Hopefully here soon we will get into timing this thing correctly and getting it back on the car, and hopefully the car will start. I haven't done much with the car this year because this here part has been angry and we have no fire. So anyway, I want to thank you for hanging out with Wrenching with Rob. More to follow. Kind of been busy with the baby, so haven't got a whole lot out there. But hey, you know, the COVID thing kind of slows everything down too. And well, I'm rambling, so have a good one. Oh, on a side note, here's some cool stuff here. These are spark plugs for the old Model A. They're rebuildable. So I'm actually going through and cleaning them up. This part goes down in there like this. And then this part here would go down over the top of it and seal it up in there with that little copper ring. So I'm going through cleaning them up. This is what is the type that's supposed to be in it. I'm not sure if it's the actual size. Here's one I actually finished off, and it's looking pretty good now.